then I would start another one after that point, okay? So if your question is burning, you really got to ask it, feel free to do so. But my preference is if you wait until I get these hard question breaks where you can ask these questions. And I try to address questions only about the area I just discussed. In front of you right now, you should have my email address. And if you want a copy of this presentation, you must send me an email. And it needs to state, I attended the session today. I want a copy of the presentation. There's a PDF copy, and I'm going to send you a bunch of other documents. Also, we will send you a certification. I'll probably get my information to you today, all the hard copy stuff, but the certificate that you will get either electronically or by mail, I'm not sure which one we're doing right now. It may take a couple weeks because my administrative secretary is on vacation for the next 10 days, and I don't know how to send out certificates. So that's her job, that's her area. So you will get a copy of it, but the presentation stuff, other material, my goal is to get that out to you guys as soon as possible, all right? No, we will not be recording this information here. I understand somebody got to log out to 10 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, hopefully, well, we may be just in the midst of it. But you need to get full credit for this, you need to really attend the entire presentation, okay? All right, I'm moving on. All right. First thing, Tarrant County served everywhere in Tarrant County except in Arlington. We do not serve in Arlington, Texas. The reason why Arlington has a housing authority, you must go through them. All of our families got to live in Tarrant County, with the exception of Arlington. We also allow families to live in Corsicana because we have taken over their housing choice voucher program a few years ago. Okay, so if your property's in Arlington, you need to probably get off the line that you just want to listen. So just make sure that's going on. All right. So program outline. We're going to just talk about it quick. Man, these people are getting in late. I don't like people coming late to my meetings. So I'm going to cut everybody off at 9:40. Nobody else will be admitted after 9:40. We're going to go with the admission to the program, introduction, fair housing, the good, the bad, the ugly, responsibilities, how to become a landlord, obligations, terminations, and program benefits. All right. Everybody know this program basically by the housing choice, by the Section 8 word, right? Officially name of the program is Housing Choice Voucher. That is the official name of the program, but we all call it a Section 8 program, okay? The goal of this program is to assist low-income families, seniors, and persons with disability to pay for a safe, decent, sanitary home through a subsidized rental assistance program with a community partner, a private landlord, those folks, okay? If you're raising your hand, I probably won't catch that for a while, guys, so you may have to ask me the question at the hard breaks. All right, everybody has to have an application on file. You must have an application on file. Now, our wait list officially has been closed since 2017 for our regular one. We're down right now, we're down to about 400 people on that wait list. You have to be a United States citizen or have some type of U.S. legal resident. You have to meet the income guidelines. You have to pass the criminal background check. So let me pause about that for a second. What is the criminal background check? HUD has 3 areas where a person must meet in order to qualify for housing. We have added 2 more to that. The first 3 for HUD is you cannot have done methamphetamines on a government property. That's a no-no. You cannot be a lifetime registered sex offender. The third thing is you cannot owe a housing authority money and get on the program again. Not landlord's money, but the housing authority. So the family was on public housing 4 years ago. They left on a debt. They come up on my wait list. I'm going to run a report. If they say they owe $2, I got to get those $2 in order to admit them to the program. Tarrant County has added 2 more areas to this. If you have did any violent criminal activities in the last 5 years, that's the first thing. The second thing, any drug-related activity in the last 5 years. So those are part of the process. Yes, this is a landlord briefing. That's why we're discussing landlord briefing. We need to understand how the program works. Okay. All right. So that's the gist of that. So you can understand how this program works. Next thing, fair housing. Okay. Fair housing is more than just housing with Section 8. Fair housing have to do with any type of loans for housing, anything like that. You got to make sure that you're treating people fairly, that you're looking at non-discrimination laws, people with disabilities. All of those things will play a role in making sure people have a fair opportunity. Okay, and that's something that the Department of Housing and Urban Affairs watch very closely. Okay. Now, Tarrant County, what are our responsibilities? Our job is to determine the family eligible for the program. Our job is to make sure that the unit meets our housing quality standards that we would go into detail here in a little bit. We have to make sure we have a contract with the landlord. That's called a HAP contract, Housing Assistance Payment Contract. Our job is to pay the owner timely. So I'm going to define what that means in a little while, what the word timely means. And we also got to perform annual recertifications and certification on the families that are on our program. The good, the bad, the ugly. The good thing about the program, yes, your property will be leased. You should have consistent rental income, and you are providing rental assistance to low-income families, people with disabilities, and elderly folks. That's what we're hoping you get out of this. Some bad things. You may not receive your first payment up to 60 days after the HAP contract is signed. After the HAP contract is signed, not the lease between you and the tenant, but the HAP contract between you and I. That won't be signed until we get an executed lease from you guys or the tenant, and we'll develop a HAP contract to send to you. Time we get it back and get it fully executed is up to 60 days. Okay. And if any of these things causing you heartaches, this may not be the program for you. Okay. We will go back from the time we have legally said this tenant can move into your unit. That's when responsibility starts. Another thing, that a person's rent portion can change. In this program, you basically going to receive 2 payments, one from us and one from the program participant in most cases. Now, probably 20% of the cases, we're paying their entire rent. But in other cases, 80% or so, we're paying a portion of their rent. You as the landlord, you got to deal with lease violations. And you got to notify us in writing of the lease violations. You may have some challenges with renters. I would love to say all of our people are excellent folks, but they're not. Some of my staff are not excellent people. Some landlords are not excellent landlords. Okay, we understand that. But those are the struggles we have to work through in this program. Now, one thing that I had highlighted in red, at this time, we do not do direct deposit. One more time, we do not do direct deposits. We still do things by mail checks going to you. And that's a headache. It's been a headache for the last 19 years. However, we are the closest of going ACH we ever been. There's some talk, there's some information going on. So I think we're okay. Hopefully by the end of the year, early next year, we should be probably doing regular ACH payments, but that's going to be a slow process. That is not in the control of my department. By the way, we are a department of the county. We're not a standalone. We don't have our own bank account. Everything is done downtown through the county system. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we're just a department of the county, just like the tax department, the road department. Each one of the departments are part of the county. The county commissioners make the decision how we run our program. They're decision makers, basically. Okay. The ugly part. The ugly part. Your tenant's gonna pay late rent sometime. That's gonna happen. All right. You may not make some payments. The tenant may abandon the unit. The part that landlords do not like is that we have the ability to abate your unit. If your unit does not pass inspection, After we give you a time frame to fix it, we will stop paying our portion of rent. We will stop paying our portion of rent until they get fixed. You cannot get the money from the tenant because the tenant only got to pay their portion. That money will be lost. Once you get it back, you're gonna call you fix the repair, we come out and inspect, then you start getting paid again. That money will be lost in between the time we tell you when you get it done and when it's done. Okay, so that's the period of time. That's the part landlords don't like, but that is the major part of our program. We want to make sure landlords are taking care of what they're responsible for. If we determine it's a tenant issue, we will not put that on the landlord. Yes, there are going to be some misunderstandings or some confusion when we do say that. That can happen. We will make the decision who we feel that is responsible, the tenant or the landlord. And just to be totally transparent with you, if it's in a gray area, we're going to probably put it on the landlord. That's the common practice here, okay? I've already mentioned part about abandoning the unit. Some of our families may destroy your property. We got some folks that are poor housekeepers, hoarders. That is the reality of this program. But there's still reality of everybody else who is not on Section 8. Those other people who paying their own rent, they do the same thing too. Too often the Section 8 people get a bad name. There's no different than other folks who are paying their rent. They dealing with other struggles in their lives, which is causing some of these issues. Okay? Owners. What are owners' responsibilities? Your job is to screen your persons coming into your unit because we determine them eligible for our program. They may not be eligible for you. You may say, I don't want nobody with a felony. That's your choice. That's what you decide to do, as long as you don't discriminate. Your job is to collect security deposit. We don't pay security deposit on majority of our cases. You will be receiving, like I mentioned earlier, 2 payments, one from the landlord and one from the tenant and one from us. Your job is to give initial lease to the landlord, I mean, to the participant. Okay? We're going to ask for an unexecuted lease initially. Then we're going to ask for a finalized lease once we complete the inspection and pass the inspection. Your job is to perform all duties to make sure that the unit always meeting housing quality standards. You have to make sure that the unit is free of lead-based paint. You have to comply with all equal opportunity requirements. You need to sign and comply with the housing assistance payment contract. Number 6 is the biggest thing here, guys. Your job is to enforce your lease. You're not trying to be buddies. You're not trying to save the world. If our families are doing things wrong, give them a lease violation and notify us in writing. Okay? It is your job to enforce your lease. There are some big ticket issues that we may be more involved in, but in general, they late paying their rent. They having problems with music, unauthorized residents. Let us know. But it's your job to go to court and evict them. It's not our job to do that. If we feel that this is an issue with violation of our program rules, we may take an opportunity to terminate them for our program, but you still got to deal with them in your unit, and that has to go through the eviction process. If you're stating that you're going to pay for any utilities, you got to keep that throughout the lease. And if you're going to make any changes to that, you got to get our permission before you do that. Responsibility for any kind of modification. If the tenant wants to make a modification to the unit, if that person is disabled, you have to allow the modification, as long as it's reasonable modification. They will have to pay for it, not the landlord. Okay, unless it's something like grab bars, stuff like something minor. But something like putting a wheelchair ramp, that's not minor, it's major. So those are the things you have to allow it to happen. Participants' responsibilities. They have to report changes to us. If their income changes, they have to pay utilities timely. If they're not working, they got to go to what's called a zero income class. They have to make sure that they're available, or somebody got to be available for all inspections. We have to get access to the unit for inspections. They have to pay their rent timely. They have to get along with other neighbors. They have to have good housekeeping. They have to allow inspection, like I mentioned earlier. So that's the gist of the program for the participants. Now, I would entertain any questions that I have what I discussed so far. Any questions? Go ahead.
I did have a question, in regards to like when the tenant or the applicant is applying. So they apply with us first and then we fill out the RFTA and that's when you'll give the resident portion, or will the resident know what their portion's gonna be beforehand, like roughly?
You're getting ahead of me a little bit. Slow down, slow down. I'm gonna come to it on my next presentation.
Okay, okay.
I gotta get it next. No problem. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anything else? All right. Now, great question. I'm gonna cover it right here. So generally, guys, we have probably about 150 people moving every single month. They all come into a big room and we go over the rules about moving. Either they could be new admission folks coming off our wait list, people who are currently on our program who just want to move to another apartment complex, to another house, or whatever the case may be, or they're coming in from another housing authority. And they want to move to Tarrant County. Okay, all these people are able to move because they are part of the housing choice voucher program. They come in, we explain the entire program to them about looking for a unit, how the RFTA is completed. We issue them a voucher. We give them certain documents to give to landlords when they go out there and meet you guys. Okay, so they go looking for you. We don't point folks to tenants. We do have a sheet or a list of people, landlords that give us their properties information, and we put it on a sheet that we give to our families who are looking for units. We do not allow people to advertise their property in our unit because it can get really messy. So part of the paperwork process, unfortunately, in any government system, there's paperwork process, and we're trying to automate some of this. We have not got everything done, but there are paperwork involved. So I'm going to slowly walk y'all through how this paperwork process works, okay? So when a tenant comes to you, most of them should have this letter to give to you, most of them. And let me say that, we gave it to them. If they carry it with them, great, some of them don't. But this is the letter, especially for new landlords. It explains the program to some degree. It talks about the different stages of the process. You know, unit search, determining a unit is affordable or not, the RTA process, the inspection process, has all that part, so you as a landlord would know exactly what's going on as well. Okay, again, our tenants should share this with you. My only guess, probably 40% probably do. Okay, we have payment standards that, again, that the family would get part of this process. Now, in the North Texas area, we've been mandated since 2018 to do our payment standards by zip codes. Prior to 2018, we had payment standards for each bedroom size throughout the county. Now it's broken down by zip codes. So please, when I send this to you, don't look at this and say, oh, I can charge this amount of money. That's not correct. This is one part of the puzzle. There's many pieces. Payment stamp is one of them. So you can determine what the rent is going to be and what the family can afford. This is just one part of it. You just cannot look at this, oh, I can charge this amount. You can charge it, but the family may not be able to afford it. Everybody can afford a different amount based on their family size, the income, their family, all of that, right? So when this came into play, we try to figure out how best to explain to our families and the landlords, what can a family afford? So we created a rent calculator, okay? And on this rent calculator, this is a worksheet that we give all of our families at the briefing. Their name is listed first, then their monthly adjusted income is what we have in the system for them based on their family size, their income. It comes up with a number. Then their TTP, which told total tenant payment. That does not mean this is all the rent that they're going to pay, because we don't know where they're going to go yet. We have no idea. So we got to figure out some things to get them looking for a unit so they can figure out what is affordable for them. Then we list their voucher size. Each one of them will have this sheet. And the way they're supposed to use this sheet is they should call you over the phone. First ask, do you accept Section 8? If you say yes, do you got any units available that fit their needs? Then they need to ask you a list of questions if everything's a yes. What is the zip code? What is the bedroom size? How much you requested for rent? What type of unit it is? Will the tenant pay for electricity? Will the tenant pay for gas? How is the house heated? How is the unit heated? Is it gas, electric, or bottle gas? Is it heating source? The stove is electric or gas? The water heater is electric or gas? All of this is a calculation. There's dollars tied behind this. So that's why all these questions have been asked. Who's going to pay for the water and sewer? Will the tenant pay for trash? Who's going to provide the appliances, meaning the stove and refrigerator? All this is the other piece of the puzzle. You have the payment standard, you have the utility allowance, all that together. So we ask our families to talk to the landlord over the phone and go over this to see if they can afford the unit. They should be writing this down while they're at home. It doesn't work that way, but that's where we're trying to get a design to work, but they do what they want to do at the time. So they lay this out, they record what you guys discuss, and then they go to our rent calculator. Okay, it's on our website. They input all that information that they gathered from you into the rent calculator. Everything had to be listed. You cannot leave anything blank, say select below. Everything got to be inputted. Then you're going to hit the word calculate. The family hit the word calculate. Now, you're going to be able to do this with them as well once they show up to your site. But we want them to do this on by themselves to make sure they can afford the unit when they come asking you other additional questions. Okay? So when that's all inputted and you hit calculate, this is going to give you an answer. So it's going to tell you, if you look at the midway down toward the bottom, highlighted in yellow in red text, it says the requested rent is affordable for this client. It's going to either say it's affordable or it's not affordable. And if you look where the long yellow arrow is pointing, it's telling you exactly what portion of the rent housing is going to pay and what the family is going to pay. Above that arrow, it shows what payment standard was used. Because once they put that zip code in, the payment standard going to get kicked in. And all the utility numbers going to get kicked in. That's how it comes up with this information. Now, where it says 30%, 30.05%, by law, a family cannot move into a unit if they're paying more than 40% of their monthly adjusted income. This is only the initial move in. Once they move into the unit, there's a possibility they could be paying the entire rent. But initially, they cannot pay more than that. So when we say the unit is not affordable, it has to do with the tenant unable to afford that unit. Nothing to do with your prices. The next tenant might be able to afford that unit because they may have more income. So that's how that part is done with that piece. So what we tell our families, if this all checks out and it looks good, then they need to schedule an appointment with you to go over all of this and see the unit. If I was you, I will run these numbers again with the tenant, with you present, to make sure it's a good fit. If it's not a good fit, you can lower your portion of rent if you choose to do that. If you do not want to do that, that's not a problem. They will have to continue to look elsewhere for a unit. Okay? So that's how this process works. This is how we determine what's affordable, what's not affordable. Don't take it personally if the tenant can't afford it. Okay? This is the test we're also going to run. Okay? Because once you guys get finished and then y'all saying it's affordable, you guys are going to turn some stuff back into us, and we're going to run some tests as well to make sure the unit is affordable. All right? So another form that you guys got to fill out together is the request for tenancy approval. Now, this form has been updated. It's very similar though. Most of it is the same. Number one is going to show that it's a request for tenancy approval. Number one should have Tarrant County's name on there. Now, something I should have said earlier. In Tarrant County, there's 4 of the housing authorities that house people within Tarrant County. Okay, it's Fort Worth. We share same jurisdiction. Dallas Housing, they can go anywhere in the 25-mile radius due to a lawsuit. Well, I think it's a 50-mile radius due to a lawsuit. I think it's 50 miles. And Grand Prairie. And I've already mentioned Arlington. Again, Arlington can only stay in Arlington. So make sure you're talking to Tarrant County, because this is Tarrant County's process. Most of it should be the same, but some of our processes may be different. The big rules are the same, but some of our processes are maybe different. So this is the request for tenancy approval. Number 2, you got to put down the address of the unit. Please list the city, state, and zip code, because we know it's in Texas, but the zip code is needed. When do you expect the lease to start? The number of bedrooms, the year it was constructed, the proposed rent, the security deposit, and the unit inspection date. So why are we asking these questions has a lot to do with us determining your rent reasonableness. I'm going to cover that after this session, I believe. We're going to determine and make sure that the unit meets certain requirements and get prepared for our inspection process. There's some things we got to collect ahead of time. We got to know, again, we're going to repeat these things again. What type of heating in the house, the cooking, the water heater. Who's going to pay for it? If the tenant's going to pay that bill, it's going to be a T for tenant. If the owner's going to pay for it, it's going to be an O for owner. That's going to go all the way through, except when you get to the refrigerator, range, and microwave. We're not asking who's going to pay for the power of it. We're asking who does it belong to. That's a different question that's been asked there. Because again, that's another utility allowance process we got to add to this process. So if you're going to supply the stove and or the refrigerator, you're going to put an O there for an owner. If the tenant's going to do that, it's going to be a T there. So it's going to be a T in one spot and O in another spot. That can happen. Okay? On the back of this, number 12, we're asking a question. Do you own any other property that's in that related area that is not subsidized? That you're not getting any government assistance from. We don't want you charging the regular people $500 and you charge the Section 8 people $1,100. That's the purpose behind that. Then on Part C, we're asking about lead-based paint. If this unit was built before 1978, you got to address lead-based paint. It was built after, you don't have to address it. So those other 2 boxes below that first box is addressing lead-based paint for an older unit. Then you, the landlord, the tenant must sign, date, put your email address on there, because we use this sheet to contact you. Because my staff is going to send some information out to you to get you set up as a vendor. Okay, because right now we don't know you at all at this point. That's why we need you to fill out this paperwork, and we're going to send something to you, and it should be through Adobe Sign, most likely, and we'll get you set up that way. So that's the other part of this form. This is kind of a repeat regarding lead-based paint. We're kind of asking this question a little bit different way. Where you want to make sure that you give the tenant knowledge. If the unit was built before 1978, you have to give them knowledge and give them some documentation about lead-based paint of the unit. You both need to sign and date this document. On the Housing Choice Voucher Program, you cannot lease to a relative. If you're the owner of the property and that person is related to you, you cannot lease to them. Now, if you're the property manager and you want to lease to your sister, more power to you. But you cannot be the owner of the program. Now, there are a reasonable accommodation deal. If you're the owner of the unit and that house that you have a wheelchair ramp and the unit's affordable, and the renter is your son, and he needs a unit with a wheelchair ramp or close to a bus stop, then we can make a reasonable you can make a reasonable accommodation request and we can review it and we'll probably approve it. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier about affordability, okay, for the tenant. The next thing we're looking at is your rent reasonableness. We got to determine if the unit you're asking, if the unit that you put on the market is the amount you asking for, is it reasonable? Tarrant County cannot tell you what to ask for. We only can tell you if it's reasonable or not what we have. We use a third-party source to determine our rent reasonableness. We will not share that information with you. It is your job to determine what you think is reasonable for your unit. Zip codes play a major role. If your unit is a 4-bedroom house and it's beautiful, you put new wood floors, you got brand new stove, you got all excellent windows, all that perfect stuff. But you're in the wrong zip code. Every other 4-bedroom going for $800. You want $1,500. It may not work because it's in that zip code what we look at. You take that same unit and you move to another zip code area where it's more high dollar, it may work. So we got to test that once you bring that in. So we're going to test, make sure the unit is affordable first, and then rent reasonable. Either one of those can fail. If it fails, we may be contacting you to see if you will lower your rent amount. When we ask that question, it's strictly an ask. You don't have to do that. If you don't want to do it, please don't do it. You just put your request in. If you say yes, we need something in writing. Say yes, I will lower my rent from $1,500 to $14.35, whatever, right? You put that in writing and we move forward. All right. That's the process. Now, I'm going to stop here. Is there any questions about what I've discussed so far? All right, going forward, inspection process. We will have to inspect every unit before the tenant moves in. We do not inspect the unit beforehand. We have to have documentation back. We have to get you set up as a vendor that trigger us to schedule an inspection. All of our inspection is usually a 2-hour window. Okay, that's how we usually do our inspection time frames. So the negative thing is, I'll get to that in a second regarding how y'all tenants find you. Okay, I'll get that in a second. If I don't, ask that question at the end. HUD is changing its inspection protocol. Starting in October. Now, this has been postponed twice so far. I won't be surprised to be postponed again. But right now, it's targeted for October 25th. That they're using another protocol called INSPIRE, National Standards for Physical Inspection of Real Estate. Okay. Starting October 1, we will have a mandatory training for landlords. I have a tentative date of July 10th. I want to make sure that's the right date. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure it's got that correct. July 10th. Yep, July 10th is the tentative date. Because we're going to go over the new INSPIRE protocol. And there's some good things about it and there's some bad things about it, in my opinion. But we will talk about that in detail. I may have a couple slides in there that may mention a few items to start thinking about. We're responsible for doing initial inspections. We do annual inspections. We do certifications. Like, for example, if we go out to your unit after the family moves in, they've been there for 6, 8 months, whatever, or annual inspection, we go out there and we determine that something is wrong. If it's a minor type of repairs, we will allow the landlord and the tenant to do a self-certification where you guys would fill out this form. You would tell us that it's completed. You both would sign off on it and get it back to us postmarked, post-dated no more than 30 days from the date that on the letter. You can give us the company receipts, the work order saying it's completed, the receipts, pictures, or whatever you need to support what you're saying is done. If you go out there 2 or 3 times and the tenant do not sign the form because they're not there and you know it's done, just document on the form. I went out there 2 times, the tenant was not around to sign the form, the assignment is, the deficiency is completed, we turn things back. We can also do virtual inspections. We did a lot of that during COVID. We don't do much of that now, but that is an option for us. And any type of special complaints that the tenant has. We don't do special complaints on landlords because we be going out there every day. So if we want landlords to enforce their own part, okay? In our program, generally it's either it pass or it fails. It pass or it fails. One item can cause the whole unit to fail. It can be something minor, but it will still fail, okay? Now, under Inspire in our regular program, we have different time frames to fix certain things. If we feel this item is a health hazard, major issue, you have 24 hours to repair it. 24 hours the next day. So we do an inspection on a Friday, you got until that Saturday to get it done. We don't not like going out on Saturdays, but we have to, we will. Any other time, we can go up to 30 days, all depending on what we set. Generally speaking, we do 3, 10, and 30. All depending on the item. Okay? So if we do a self-cert, most self-certs are 30 days. So you may have a situation in your unit where you got 5 things that are deficiency. One could be a 24-hour, the other 4 could be 30 days. And if you don't get that fixed in 24 hours, we will abate your unit. So they can be separate items. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, I'm gonna come back to that in a second. So inspecting the units. You got to make sure that the electricity, gas, water, stove, and refrigerator is present. The stove and refrigerator have to be present if the tenant is going to bring in the stove and refrigerator. If you're supplying it, correction. If you're supplying the stove and refrigerator, it needs to be present. If the tenant's going to supply the stove and refrigerator, it does not need to be present. Okay? So let's start up with doors. All doors, all exterior doors. Exterior doors are the outside leading into the house. They need to have 2 locks. One must be a deadbolt lock, and it must be another lock on the other door. I mean, on the door as well. You gotta have a lock. We don't allow the locks to have 2 keys on both sides. That's not a safe lock to use. Right now, we're still recommending peepholes to be required, or a window looking at that front door. Okay. Also keep in mind, if you have an attached garage and that door leading into your garage that's an exterior door. Yes, I know there's a garage, there's another door tie to that, but how this is looked at for us, that door leading into the garage is an exterior door, and the same requirements must be met. They need to make sure that the door is fastened properly, the strike place work, and is a proper door for that area. Weather stripping. This is another issue. Again, right now we're strict at this point, but Inspire is a little bit more liberal. The gap got to be a little bit wider than this gap you're showing now. But today, this is the rule. October, we have to be a little bit more liberal about the gap, that daylight coming through that door. Okay? Inspire is going to be a little bit more liberal in that area. These are the locks that are acceptable. This lock plus the deadbolt lock is great. Both of these locks will work. As long as that lock to the right, the gold one, as long as it's not a keyed lock on both sides. It can be a keyless lock, but not a key lock. We do not allow these locks on nothing but multifamily. We allow them to use it. For regular housing, programs, we say no to this. These two locks are not acceptable. We do not allow these. Now you can have these locks plus the other two that we need as well. If that's what you want to do, is your choice. If you look at the black and white photo to your left-hand side, only lock will work is that bottom lock. You still need that keyless lock as well. That deadbolt lock as well. So when we inspect the unit, the first thing we want to look at is the the living room area. The living room got to make sure that there's no hazards, that there's no major holes in the wall. The floor is level. The electricity outlets work. There's windows that the windows raise up and down. The light fixtures work. The bulbs are showing, or they're on. No tripping hazards. That's what we're gonna look at. Okay. I'm gonna come back to this in a minute. Smoke detectors and seal detectors. Now, starting December 2024, this was in place. So smoke detectors have always had to be in every bedroom, every hallway of every bedroom, and every level of every floor of each unit. The things in red is brand new. This is also part of Inspire, but this is part of Inspire would kick in December 2024. All smoke detectors that are wall mounted must be between 4 to 12 inches from the ceiling. The ceiling mounted smoke detectors can be no closer than 4 inches from the wall. They strongly recommend that the smoke detector be not near a window, doorway, vents, that area. You have to be at least 10 feet from the stove area. The smoke detectors, they have to be a 10-year lithium sealed battery or hardwired. So your smoke detector is the smoke detector that you can open up, pull a battery out, that would not be allowed. We close them and we shut them down now. Those are all 24-hour issues. We would not pass that inspection. Okay? CO detectors, carbon dioxide detectors. Any unit that have any type of fuel burning devices, fireplace, gas stove, water heaters, gas water heaters, an attached garage, you have to have a CO detector in every area of a bedroom. So you got bedrooms on one side of the house and another on the other side of the house. You need a CO detector in each of those areas in the hallways. If that fuel burning appliance is in that bedroom or in that room, you must have a a CO detector in there as well. Okay? So now, what is weird about this, we're not asking for these devices to be lithium batteries, which is crazy to me. But only the CO detectors, only the smoke detectors have to be. Now, you can find the ones that are joint CO detector, combined CO detector and smoke detector, that will be allowable, but the placements are still the same rules. We're going to look at weather stripping issues. Doors, windows with locks, they have to have locks. If they design to have locks, then they got to have locks that work. These thumb locks right now, they're not allowed. We're trying to get a variance to allow us to use these locks. But right now in Inspire, they're telling us no. We're trying to see what we can do to get this to be sufficient, because we know some of those older apartments have these windows in there as well. If we see broken locks like this, is going to be failed items. Broken glass, windows pane broken, all these would be issues. I mentioned stuff was life-threatening. I mentioned that earlier. It's been those emergency 24 hours. Anytime there's a natural gas leak situation, electrical problems in the unit, blocking entries, exits from the unit, smoke detectors, still detectors working or missing, any imminent possible danger type situations, all those fall under life-threatening. Outlets. If we see any of these type of outlets, covers missing, cover burnt out, cracked, broken, all of these are gonna be 24 hours, okay? 24 hours. Okay, for new units, we will not allow the tenant to move in. These are some changes coming up, just to highlight some changes. The one on the right is our current outlets for major appliances. Starting October, it's going to be a single outlet. So like your stove, for an example, I'm sorry, like your refrigerator, not stove, refrigerator. Refrigerator going to have to be on a single outlet. Your washer will have to be on a single outlet. So keep these things in mind. Currently, we have the same rule now where your GFCI outlets got to be near any water source. Most of them are near around a sink or a water fountain area. There's just some photos of electrical issues. If we see missing bulbs, burnt out bulbs, we will fail those inspections. Frayed wire, all these are 24-hour issues. Poor electrical work. Electrical boxes, again, they need to all have covers. They cannot have any exposed wires. If somebody can stick their finger through there, there's going to be a problem for that. Exit signs. October 21st is a little bit more strict. Right now, we still will address the one on the left because it's hanging down. Started October 1, 2025. These would be an issue, plus these electric outlets must be able to be illuminated. You just cannot have a piece of paper to say exit. It has to actually shine, be exposed, be on. That's what we would look at. Having a sign up and say exit is right here, that is not going to pass. We're going to fail those starting October 2025. Vents. Anytime we see a vent, it will go to a unit and a vent is broken, smashed, that will fail the unit as well. White vinyl vents are no-no. These are 24 hours. So if you have that in a unit, even if it's empty, some of them still have that vent there. If it's white, we will fail that unit because of that alone. Blocking exits. If this is the tenant's AC, it's not a problem. But if it's the landlord AC, it's a problem. Burglar bars. Again, that window got to have a way to get that latch needs to open up for that burglar bars. People got to exit out of there. If there's another window in that same room, and then yes, that will be okay for this one. No, they're able to get out of it. Again, these are old propane heaters. These are no-no. You cannot use these on the housing choice voucher programs. This is in place now. We don't enforce it as strong as we should, but in Inspire, it can be a little bit more tougher than this. If there's a fire extinguisher, we should look at that now. We look at it now. We got to make sure that the tag is not expired. We got to make sure that it's in the proper place. When Inspire happens in October 1, if we see an empty case where a fire extinguisher is supposed to be, and there's not one in there, or we see a hook that a smoke detector, a fire extinguisher is supposed to be on, that will fail the unit. You're not required to have a fire extinguisher. I'm just saying for the housing choice voucher program. Multifamily may have different rules, but for the HCV program, we don't require it. But if you have one there, it must meet all the qualifications. If there are signs that one has been there, it must present itself. It needs to be there. So you're either going to cover up that cabinet, cover it up totally, remove those hooks, remove those screws on that hook over there where the other one is. There's no signs of it, we will never know. Okay? Leaks, plumbing issues is something we look at very carefully. If we start seeing things like this, there will be issues for the inspection. Rails. If there's more than 3 stairs, they need to have rails on both sides. Missing railing is an issue. What's going to happen, guys, in proper signage? This is more for apartment complexes. If there's no true signs, that we can see the name of the property, the address. And starting October 1, the signage is not visible, that will be a failed item. Currently, it's not, but if the gates are not working, I mentioned earlier about light fixture, globe missing, handrails, all of those gonna be different rules starting October 1. Okay? You just cannot have regular handrails. It cannot be, you gotta be the ones that people are able to grip. Not the flat piece of wood that's just flat out, not grippable. So that's something that Inspire is putting in place. When we inspect the kitchen, again, stove and refrigerator, if it's in place, we will check it all. We will make sure that the stove work, all the eyes work, the oven works, that the eyes are leveled. The refrigerator, we're gonna check to make sure it stay cool, it closed properly, it seals properly. If all the drawers are working, if one of the drawers are broken or missing, that can fail the inspection. Electrical outlets, same thing. GFCI outlets got to be near the sinks. Garbage disposal, you're not required to have a garbage disposal. You're not required to have a dishwasher. But if they're there, they must work. You can hear me say it 1,000 times. If it's there, it must work. If it's not working, get it out. If there's no signs of it, we won't ask any questions. Bathrooms, again, all bathrooms must have locks on the bathroom doors. You need to have an exhaust system or a window. The toilet need to function properly. The shower and the tub the same way. We look at the electrical outlets by the sink, GFCIs as well. The outlets, we're going to test all of those things, make sure things work properly. Bedrooms. What's required for a bedroom? What's required for a bedroom is basically having 2 electrical outlets, 2 egresses, not leading to the same hallway. So this picture here is a door coming from the outside hallway into that room. That's one egress in the window. If that window wasn't there, this cannot be considered a bedroom. You do not need a closet, but you cannot walk through this room to go through another room and consider it as a bedroom. It got to be an enclosed area. We're going to check electrical outlets. We're going to check windows. We're going to check all of those things. Make sure it passes. Tripping hazards, just real quick. We're going to look at all these things as issues. For apartment complex, this will be your problem because this is on your property. For single family homes, that's going to belong to the city. We won't blame you for that. Porters, housekeepers, I mentioned this earlier. Again, right now, that will fail as a dirty house. Starting October 1, dirty houses is not considered as a hazard under Inspire. Okay? I mentioned earlier some things you like or don't like, right? However, we can argue a couple other points. There are objects blocking exit ways. That will be our argument why we think it's an issue. But what Inspire is saying, just having a junk house is not an issue with Inspire. It's a low-grade issue, okay? Health and safety issues, again, outside. Right now with Inspire, before Inspire, we look at the entire area. With Inspire, it's only going to be in a certain area we're going to be looking for in your unit. Okay, when we get to the building, because right now, if I pull up to your house, when I start getting a couple of houses away from your unit or into your parking lot, everything is under inspection. Inspire is not as strict as that. Okay, riding wood, peeling paint, all these are issues. Having tree limbs, power lines down, hazard issues, stuff in the yard not being cut, all of these will be issues with Inspire and currently. Evidence of rats, mice, roaches. These are the stuff we're going to look for. If there's no signs of it, there's nothing we can do about it. If we see one roach dead and some other signs of infestation, we're going to have a problem with that. So these are the things I tell landlords all the time. Please clean up before we get there. Okay, please clean the unit up before we get there. You only ask for problems if we see this stuff, we're going to fail a unit. Abatements. Again, I've talked about abatements again. Just to be clear, we gave the landlord a certain time to fix a problem. This is a landlord issue. not a tenant issue, and we determined the landlord got X number of days to fix the deficiency. If they fail to do it, we're gonna start the abatement that day. That unit will remain on abatement until they get fixed. If it's more than 60 days, we will end our contract. That means the tenant will move. That means we will not, you will lose all that money for 60 days. Once you repair the item within those 60 days, your payment will start. We will not go back and pay you. We will not go back and pay you. That will be lost money. The tenant does not pay our portion of the rent. They only responsible for their portion. So keep that in mind. The owners, your job is to give a lease to the tenant. So we're gonna walk you through it and how all this is gonna work. Okay. So are there any questions about inspections that I covered so far? I'm coming to an end. So let's walk.
Actually,
Go ahead.
I got one. So what if it's a single family home and you have a sliding patio door that leads to the exterior, like the backyard? What kind of lock do you require for that one?
Good question. I need to add that to my slide. The sliding glass door, I think there's 3 different locks you can put in there. You can put the arm that comes down. There's actually a little latch on the part of the handle, and there's a pin that you can use as well. 2 of those devices got to be working. Okay, that's what's required. And the door got to slide pretty smoothly. If they got to struggle to open that door, it's gonna fail.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'm gonna reverse this real quick. I'm gonna hit this one real fast. I'm gonna come back to it. Now, questions y'all want to know, it's a couple things. Rent increases. Yes, as a landlord, you can request a rent increase once a year. Try to do it about 3 or 4 months out. If you're gonna renew your lease, try to do it 3 or 4 months out to ask for the rent increase so we can get it timed by the time that lease ends. The going rent increases, it's about $100 to $200, all depending on the property. We still have to run rent reasonableness to make sure it's rent reasonable again. We just can't blind, oh yeah, you can do it, yeah. Nope, we gotta put down, I want to raise my rent. There's a certain form that you get on our website. I want to raise the rent from $800 to $950. Give it to us 4 months ahead of time. Let the tenant know, because the tenant may not want that to happen. So we try to get that done. And we should let you know within 60 days after you let us know what's going on, if it passed or not. If we say it failed and we're going to tell you why, and we say you need to lower it by another $25, lower it by $25. Every year you can do this. We're not going to remind you to do it. If you don't do it, you're going to have to wait. So keep that in mind, okay? Something that, again, may be issues with landlords. And I always try to bring out things that I think that landlords gripe about. I mentioned earlier that right now that there's 2 payments that's going to come to a landlord. One will be ours, one will be the tenant's. There are times where the tenant may lose their job in the middle of the month. If they report their change to us by the middle of the month, we will make adjustments on our payment amount. The unfortunate part about us, we have to start our payment run around the 10th or the 11th. As a matter of fact, we're doing it today, matter of fact, okay? Because we got to get our payment stuff in order, because we got to send everything downtown. It got to go in the commissioner's court agenda, which is 2 weeks out to approve it. So we're way ahead of that, right? So that may be a situation where we may call you and say, listen, when you get your check in May, it may be short. We will pay you again in the next couple of weeks to make the difference up because the tenant lost their job. We will send you something in writing or we will call you and tell you about that. One thing I do promise you, if we legally owe you money, we will pay you. If we legally owe you money, we will pay you. We get in trouble for holding money. We get in trouble making payments while we should make payments. So we want to get the money out to landlord as quickly as we can. But sometimes families do lose jobs. They report it to us. We can't stop our process just to get this one payment in. We will make you whole the next month. So you'll get that regular amount. Then 2 weeks later, you'll get a check for whatever the difference is. Whatever we say we was going to pay, that will be the difference. Okay. So the tenant still may have a portion, even if they lost their job. It's all depending on what's going on with that family. Okay. I'm gonna go back to this. So, in summary, we do not send people to you. How you can find tenants, you can go to affordablehousing.com. Affordablehousing.com. I think I got it. I thought I had it here. Affordablehousing.com. You can set up an account. It's a free account, and you can list your properties there. Okay. Or you can send me an email, as I stated earlier. At this email address with your property, the rent amount, security deposit, the address, and every month or so, we update our list that we have. We're not going to babysit that list a whole lot. Every month or so, we update it. We may contact you, but it's your responsibility to let us know that the unit is off the market. So if you don't tell us, it's going to stay there. I mean, they're going to continue to call you. Okay? But I also encourage you, whatever marketing tools you got to use to market your property, feel free to do that. Okay? Because it's your job to market your own property. So you do this number of bedrooms, location, the proposed rent, and security deposit amounts. Once you get on the program, I encourage you to get on our portal. That's the way we communicate with landlords. It's not too often we physically send letters to the landlords. Usually we do that because there's a problem. Most of the stuff is via email, and there's an email address that you can use. It's landlords@tarrantcountytx.gov. 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 You can send all your paperwork through that email address. Okay? And we got people monitoring that email address. Let me see here. I just want to go back. Okay. Remember, landlords, you cannot make any changes in your lease without our permission during the term of the lease. You just can automatically get a rent increase and tell the tenant about it, and we got to approve all of that. Okay. Now, walking you through the process. So when a family get finished, we go to their briefing, we give them paperwork, they go out and visit you. Well, before they go out, they should do the affordability test. If the unit is affordable and you guys discussed over the phone, they would go out, see your property. If everybody likes each other, everything works, you guys would complete the paperwork together. The RFTA and a couple other documents. The participant would turn that back into us, or you can turn that in. I tell the tenants not to leave their RFTA with landlords because some landlords hold those documents too long. The tenant has a 60-day window to get stuff back into us for a voucher expired. So they have a real reason why they need to get that thing back from you immediately. Once we get that into our office, my staff is going to run the affordability. They're going to run the rent reasonableness, and we're going to schedule an inspection. If everything passes, we're going to schedule an inspection. We're going to call you, and the inspection will be based upon the date you put on the RFTA. That's what we kind of use. If you know the unit is not going to be ready, please do not send my inspectors out there for nothing. Don't call us on the 11th hour. Oh, it's not ready. You knew 2 days ago it wasn't going to be ready. So you can save us a whole lot of time. Okay. What else I want to tell you about? So once all that's done, we're going to even let you know, because the rent calculator is going to tell you already what the tenant portion is going to be. At the time of the inspection, we should give you and the tenant a document to state this is the official notice of the amount, unless something changes. This is the amount that we're going to pay. This is the amount the tenant's going to pay. Okay. So if we call you schedule inspection, that means it passed everything. Affordability and rent reasonableness. All right. You will get a lease to the tenant. You guys will give it to us after the inspection. And after we get it, we'll do the HAP contract. So to back up a little bit, initially you'll give us an unexecuted lease with your initial paperwork, the RTA. The tenant will bring all that back to us. An unexecuted lease, that's a lease is not signed, but it's telling us everything we want to know about that unit, the prices and everything. Once we get through our process, we inspect the unit passes, you're going to give us an executed lease. Then we will do the HAP contract off the executed lease. That is when the 60 days start once we sign off. That means we got to pay you by that time frame. And we're going to pay you the time the tenant moves in after we approve the inspection. Majority of our move-ins is the first of the month for families who are already on our program. If it's an emergency move, they can move once we pass the inspection. These people are coming off our wait list and we approve them to move. They can come at any time after the inspection passes, or they come in from another housing authority. But if it's our regular family who's leaving place A to go to place B on a normal terms, they can move in on the first of the month. The reason why, we've already paid the current landlord for an entire month already. So we don't want to be double dipping or paying a landlord, two different landlords at the same time. All right. That's all I have to discuss. Any questions that you guys have?
I'm not sure if you already covered this, but the application, how do we do the application?
There's no application. Once a tenant comes to you with paperwork, you guys gonna fill out the RFTA form and get you real quick. Man, I got a lot of slides. All right, you guys are gonna fill out this document together. This document, this document, this document. And you'll give us an unexecuted lease. Everything comes back to us. Once my staff get this, it's, oh, we got a new landlord, Miss Diaz, a new landlord. We're gonna email you out the document. Say, hey, we understand you're interested in being part of our team. Miss Johnson want to rent the property from you. Fill out this paperwork. You can get W-9. There's gonna be some other stuff they're gonna be asking for you. We're gonna ask for your proof of ownership, your Tarrant County Appraisal District documentation, your driver's license, whoever the name is under, and some other information. Get all this back to us. Once we get all that back, then we will schedule an inspection, as long as everything else passes.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes, one more question, just to
$10,
summarize.
$10 a question.
I'm sorry?
It's $10 a question.
Ooh.
All right, go ahead.
Just to summarize what you covered today, to make sure that I got everything down pat. The next thing we have to make sure is that on July 10th, we go to that training, right?
Once I officially give that date out, that is tentative.
Okay.
Okay, once I officially do it, and I gotta figure out, I think what I'm gonna do is, because do you have a person already or you don't have a person in place already?
I don't have a person already. The
Okay,
property.
I'm gonna have to probably send emails out to everybody, because the list that we have in our system is our current landlords. I don't capture new landlords into our system till they become our landlords. So I gotta figure out how to add like this group to my notice about this meeting. There's a good chance that this will be set. I can't promise, because the HUD changed the rules because there's a new HUD administration in. They may not do Inspire. They may postpone it a little while. I don't know. So I'm using July 10th as a possibility. Okay. So if I was you, send me an email to confirm it, or I will use our email addresses we have now, and I will send something out to everybody. This is in place.
Okay. So then at this point, there's nothing we need to do until we get our tenant and do what you just mentioned.
Correct. So, but the key thing is try to find a tenant. Somebody asked on a question, what can they do to find a tenant? A, you can go to affordable housing. It's just like a dating deal, right? You go in there, they're looking for units, you're looking for somebody, y'all can find each other in that process as well. That's how that system is designed. We also give them a list of your, if you list, give us a copy of your information about your property, we will add that to the list. Newspapers, whatever you need to do to get that advertised, feel free to do that.
Are we able to post our property even though it's not gonna be available until August?
No, yeah, post all, yeah, but put it on there. I'm putting my house on Section 8. It won't be available to August. That's not a problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Somebody asked about homeowners associations. We don't get involved in that. It's my understanding, if I remember the state law correctly, they cannot prevent Section 8 folks from moving there. Okay, so, but you may want to find out if that's correct, but I remember state law a couple of years ago, they put that in place. Or it's going through the process. Now, it was a couple of years ago, they put that in place. So homeowner association cannot say you cannot lease to a Section 8 person. By the way, landlords, you don't have to accept Section 8. We are one of those states that do not have to accept Section 8. If you don't like Section 8 after the first year, you can get out when the lease ends. It's your call. You're not married for a lifetime in this program. Okay? I have
Uh, with with the unsigned lease that you required once you find a tenant, do you need that HOA docs
no,
attached as well?
we,
Okay, just a
we,
lease.
yeah, we have nothing to do with HOA.
Okay.
It's strictly up to you guys.
Okay, and while I'm still talking, I did have another question. So, going back to your requirements around the garage doors. So for my property, for example, I have an attached an attached garage, right? But that attached garage, there's a door that leads to the interior of the home. Is that the door you were talking about? Or are you talking about if the garage itself has a door?
No. I'm talking about that one leaving your house going into the garage.
Oh, leave my okay. Okay, got it.
Yep. Whatever the door leading into your garage from the inside of your house going into your garage, that door has to meet the requirements of 2 locks and a peephole or a window.
Okay.
I did talk about peepholes, right? That has
Uh,
peepholes on all
yeah,
exterior doors.
yeah, you mentioned the
Okay,
people.
all
Yeah.
right. Sam Jones asked a question. Yeah, people can get a bigger bedroom size, but the dollar amount doesn't change for us. So let's say a family has a 2-bedroom voucher. How we do our voucher size, we basically do 2 persons per room. Let's say you got a family of 4, a mom, husband, 17-year-old daughter, 12-year-old son. By policy, they would get a 2-bedroom. However, they have a lot of income. They may be able to afford a 3-bedroom unit with the same 2-bedroom voucher dollar amount. So somebody can get a bigger size if the landlord is willing to allow that. Some tax credit multifamily units do not allow that. but the units still have to be affordable. We don't use 3-bedroom voucher standards for them. We still use the 2, even though the actual bedroom is a 3. We got to do the voucher size for that dollar amount first.
Right, that makes sense. And that's what I was under the assumption about. I've just had an overwhelming abundance of just 2-bedroom voucher, 2-bedroom voucher, 2-bedroom voucher.
Where are you? Apartment, house?
Crowley, Texas.
Apartments or houses? Multi-family?
No, a single.
Wow. You know, it's not too often we got too many single-family homes that are 2 bedrooms.
I know.
Are they older units?
It's a 1967.
That's what I thought. Okay, it had to be older units. Yeah, okay. Today, that's not very common. But make sure you send your information on there and put that down, because I know some people are looking for 2 bedrooms, units, and house. They don't want to be in apartments. Are they houses or are they duplexes?
No, it's a house. I think we're backwards. So the people applying they've been approved for 2 bedrooms, but the house is 3-bedroom.
Oh, if they can afford it, they can get it.
Right. I think that's been the issue, is that they can't afford it. And so they're asking to lower the rate because of the difference. But I was just curious if it was wise to accept 2-bedroom vouchers. But yeah, okay. If they can afford it, yes, great. Perfect.
And I tell landlords all the time, just think about it. Every month that your unit is not occupied, you're losing money. By lowering your rent $100, that's $1,200 for a whole year. You got somebody in a unit, you charging $1,300, you still gonna be up eventually. But you guys make the business decisions on your property, okay? I'm gonna close out with this, guys. I believe in communication. I think my staff work very hard. I would love to say we are an expert or good. We don't do any wrong. That's not true. We make mistakes. Anytime a mistake is known, we will fix our problem. I expect landlords to do the same thing. We're here to help family. Landlords are here to make business. I respect that. But when it comes down to decision making for our families, that's our job to make. You know, everybody wants to say, I'm a taxpayer. I don't think people should go on the program. That is not what the discussion is about. That's the decision that we make on it, not landlords. But we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you're saying. And if we don't allow people who destroy one property to continue to do it over and over and over again, we got to have enough evidence to take action against a family. If it's gray, there's not much we can do about it. But we have a lot of gray. It's going to eventually turn black for us to do something about it. So we try our best to let landlords give an input on if a family should stay on the program or not. But we got some people who want to push the issue too strongly. That is not your role as the landlord. It's not my role to tell you who you need to keep or not keep. I stay out of that. Okay. Any other questions for me? Because I have a lunch meeting to go to 11:30. All right. Appreciate you guys very much. And I will make sure we get this group on our email list if we're going to do that training in July. I would know definitely 30 days out.
Can I ask you a quick question, sir?